Welcome to another weekly Forex forecast for calendar week 37. We start on the DXY on the weekly time frame. We had some conflicting price action. The previous week we had a very strong bullish reversal candle coming from an area of interest. And this week we were retracing the whole week more or less, but ended on a wick, taking the Fibonacci tool just to see how many percent. We just closed slightly below the 50% retraced of the previous week, so more or less still in undecided territory. This is also supported by the mixed data released last Friday. We will shortly have a look on the data. We had the non-farm employment change, which was slightly lower than expected, and the big number is here. So the 89,000 were revised from the previous month, and so the market is kind of expecting that this number will be even worse and will be revised to the downside as well. Unemployment rate is slightly better than the previous release, and so therefore the numbers are mixed. Moving down to the 4-hour time frame, we are here in a range. So we had the retrace last week, but then ending on a wick due to the mixed market data released last Friday. So we see here there is still everything is possible, right? So we still left a small gap here, so we could come down once more before moving higher up, or we could build something a bit more complex and create a bigger structure for the last leg down, which would then also be within proportion. Okay, so let's see if the dollar related pairs can give us some more clue regarding direction. Starting off with the euro US dollar as always, again on the weekly time frame. So we see a very similar picture here. However, we see here we clearly closed below the 50% retrace. So with this close, I'm leaning slightly more to a continuation short. Here on the daily, we can also see that we ended on a very big wick on Friday, and we are almost fully engulfing the previous day in a bearish candle. Going down straight to the 1 hour, we have quite some messy price action in this area. So I wanna see more clarity, and for me, I'd like to see price break this low here and then start to form some form of continuation pattern to enter a short. But at the moment, with this price action on the euro US dollar, I'm more leaning towards a short, so therefore more towards a recovery in the DXY. Moving on to Australian dollar US dollar on the weekly time frame, we are now here in the second bearish week in a row and a very strong bearish week, and therefore I'm looking for a continuation short going down straight to the 1 hour. We had here an initial impulsive move and then a structure, and now we are below the previous structure low, and we can see here towards the left there is nothing in the way for the next leg down. So what I'm looking here is a smaller consolidation, preferably backtesting the back end of the previous structure with the 1, 2, 3, and then entering a short in this area. US dollar Canadian dollar started to turn around the last 2 weeks. So it lost momentum a week ago and is now kind of confirming a reversal here with the previous strong bullish week. However, we are turning around somewhere here from no man's land, basically on the start of the last previous impulsive move. So it's a fair area of interest for price potentially turning around. So at the moment, I'm looking for a continuation long going down to the 1 hour time frame. We had also kind of messy price action in this area and then broke out towards the end of the week. We have a small high here and a small area of interest. I need some clean price action confirmation. So I would like to see a 1 hour structured flag here for a continuation long to at least finish the gap towards the next smaller area of interest, and then seeing this impulsive move, if we get this volume accumulation in form of a continuation structure, there is a potential for price to drive higher. Euro New Zealand dollar was very clear in a downtrend the previous weeks. We were tapping in an area of interest. Actually, this was a value area and then started to sell off aggressively. So this was the first bullish week and it's already kind of a reversal week. Everything is possible with this kind of positioning. Directly to the 1 hour time frame, we see here we have some areas of interest. We have a small liquidity area here, which was backtesting the initial small continuation pattern here. Therefore, we have an area of interest slightly higher up. We then see that we were initially looking last week for a continuation short. We did not get the continuation short here. Instead, price broke out, formed a small continuation, and went then into a bigger bull flag continuation. So we had losing momentum here, a turnaround, an initial small continuation into a bigger continuation. So, and then towards the end of the week, the breakout. So as it stands right now, I'm changing my bias and I'm looking for a long next week, but as well as the other pairs, I need some clear price action confirmation. So I would like to see a structured flag on the 1 hour time frame if possible. There is a very, very small liquidity point here on the lower time frame into this area for the last leg into the liquidity point, and then with the main goal, the next higher area of interest. Moving on to Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar is in a downtrend. We can see we had a 1, 2, 3 into a value area and are now selling off. We had an initial consolidation and are now continuing the trend. Moving down to the 4 hour, we can see that we lost momentum here. So we had this expanding structure. We had the first initial bear flag continuation into the next continuation, a smaller continuation, and are now retesting the previous structure low and have still some room to go for the middle section of the higher time frame structure. So at the moment, I'm looking for price to clearly break below the previous structure low and then forming me some form of continuation pattern to enter a short to at least finish this leg here into the middle structure. Next is New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar. And speaking of conflicting price action, this is a very nice example. We had 2 weeks where it looked like kind of a turnaround here. We had this doji, but turning around somewhere in no man's land, and then we had the follow through last week with the bearish candle. However, in the bigger picture, we see that we have a lot of areas of interest here to the left, and it could also become a bigger, more complex structure, something like that, and price could move up. And this one would be leg 1, then here the consolidation 2, and then 3 for the next move up. So going down to the 4 hour time frame, we can see here we had area of interest and another bigger area of interest, the lower end of the initial bull flag structure for the final run. We had here a 1, 2, 3 expanding structure before we started to sell off. We then sold off, and here we have another 1, 2, 3 into this area of interest and then started to move up again. And now we tapped into this small area of interest here and then started to sell very aggressively. And even here, when we go down to the 1 hour time frame, we can see here again we formed another 1, 2, 3 structure into this area of interest before we started to sell off on Friday, and are now somewhere in no man's land. So we have here a bullish pattern, a bullish reversal pattern into a bearish continuation pattern into an area of interest. So very, very conflicting price action. We also left the gap here to the next higher area of interest and are now in no man's land. Right now, I'm not looking for anything in here, because price can easily do something more complex and start to stall and form a more complex structure for the next leg down. Or price can also just finish slightly sideways and then go for a long and finish this like kind of bull flag pattern with the 1, 2, 3 here for a continuation long. So either way, I'm not interested in anything in between. I'm waiting for price to reach this area here for either a breakthrough, a continuation below for a short, or a tap into it, break back in, a continuation for a long, preferably finishing the 1, 2, 3 touch. So moving on to New Zealand dollar yen, we had a very strong bearish week last week, basically reversing the last 3 retrace weeks within 1 week. So at the time now we are looking for a continuation short going down to the 1 hour time frame. we have multiple areas of interest here to the left, but we are now just below the next one we have to take care of is the one we just broke through. We had, this was the last area of interest before we moved into the high and then started to turn around with the first small continuation structure into a small running channel and then broke out to the downside at Friday. So I'm looking now for a continuation below this area of interest here, preferably in the form of a 3-touch structure, retesting this low to then enter a short. The next one is Swiss francs yen. We start directly on the 1 hour because the higher time frame looks very similar to New Zealand dollar yen. We can see we had a 1, 2, 3 into an area of interest here before starting to sell off. We had the first running channel continuation into an expanding structure and then sold off. And we are now at almost at the low of the middle section of the bigger higher time frame structure. And price is moving now from a continuation into a smaller continuation. And that's what I'm actually looking for right now. I hope to see a smaller, like kind of a hover continuation here, just around the low of the structure to enter a short. We now have New Zealand dollar Swiss francs on the weekly time frame. We had a very, very strong bearish week, also almost retracing the previous 3 bullish weeks, and are now looking for a continuation short as a momentum run, going down straight to the 1 hour time frame. We have a more significant area of interest here to the left. We are below the last 2 areas of interest with the structure. We turned around somewhere in no man's land, had the first initial impulsive run to the downside, the first continuation pattern, and are now looking for a continuation to at least finish it into the next area of interest. And if price can accumulate enough volume here, it should be no problem for price to move further down. And now pound Australian dollar to finish the weekly forecast. Initially, we were looking for a continuation short. We did wick into a value area a few weeks ago and then started to stall. In this area here, we were looking for a continuation short. And we were actually forecasting this as a 1, 2, 3 into the lows, but then had last week this very, very strong engulfing bullish week. So therefore, we are looking for a long now, going down to the 1 hour time frame. We had it on watch for quite a while for continuation shorts. We were looking here for a short. We were then waiting here for a breakout. So we didn't get any short in this area. Instead, we had an impulsive run, a small bull flag continuation, and then another impulsive run, and are now in an impulsive run to the upside. So it's more clear here on the 1 hour. We can see there is really not much on the left to worry about up to the high. So what I would like to see is bull flag continuation just where we are right now. There is a small liquidity point on the lower time frame, so preferably I would like to see a 1, 2, 3 for a continuation long. That's it. That's my watch list for the week. Thanks for watching and see you next week. Bye bye.